an aspiring physical therapy student, one thing that I need to do is I need to get observation hours. In these observation hours, what I do is I follow around a physical therapist to kind of get an idea of what my future career may entail. One day, when thinking about this presentation, a day that I look back on was the day that we strapped a patient into a mechanical bed, put their head and their feet in it, and then pushed a button. What the bed was doing was it was pulling their vertebrae and their joints apart, allowing their body to kind of loosen up a little bit. And I remember asking the physical therapist if he believed that this bed was doing his job for him. He said the bed is doing his job, but it's doing it much safer and better than he himself could do. So I asked him, I said, don't you think that maybe one day machinery will be able to do your job for you? And he said, no, he said he believes that it won't really do his job for him, it won't take his job, but rather he can incorporate it into his job to make his patients' lives better. And I think this is something that really stuck with me because right now we have this fear of robots coming in, booting us out of the workplace, and taking our jobs. We have this fear because of the idea of transhumanism. According to Humanity Plus, a transhumanistic worldwide organization, transhumanism is how we perceive the future based on the idea that our human species is not in its final form right now, and with the introduction of technology, the final human species, or the future human species, will be completely different compared to what we are now, and we won't even recognize it. So because of true transhumanism right now, we have this fear of losing our jobs to robots. Right now, Acemoglu and Restrepo actually say that we've lost 360 to 760,000 jobs in the United States alone. And Javen and Haley actually described that about 800 million jobs may be lost worldwide here in the near future. I don't believe this is as big of a problem as we need to make it, but Rotman from 2014 describes that American business productivity is at an all-time high right now because of the introduction of technology into the workplace. And Hughes from 2014 actually has a graph that demonstrates this really well. What we can see is that for a while, as the American businesses were making more money, they were also putting money back into their workers. However, as technology became introduced to the workplace, they weren't having to pay as many workers because they weren't having to hire as many workers. So American businesses were making more money and not having to pay their workers as much money. And this feeds into the fear of losing our jobs to robots. We have this fear that American businesses are no longer going to need us, they're just going to use robots, and they're going to make all the money, and we're not going to be able to make money. But I don't think this needs to be as big of a problem as we think it is. I believe that we can work with robots, and I think we can work with robots well enough so that we can actually build a very good relationship with them. I think we can incorporate them into the workplace and make the workplace better and also help people that we are helping. Right now, in my field of the natural sciences, we're doing a very good job of doing this. Baez and Associates actually describe how robots are being used in pharmacology. In pharmacology right now, it takes a pharmaceutical company years and decades and billions of dollars to develop a drug and then put that drug on the market. Because it costs so much money to develop that drug, it costs a lot of money for the consumer to actually buy the drug. However, pharmacology and pharmaceutical companies specifically are actually using artificial intelligence in the research and design of these drugs. They're using the artificial intelligence to go out and look at the research and develop the drug and assist them in making this drug, and it's saving them millions of dollars and years of time, and they're able to actually make the drug much quicker and cheaper for the consumer. So instead of artificial intelligence taking the job of a research and design pharmaceutical company, the pharmaceutical company is actually using the artificial intelligence in their workplace. Along with pharmacies, it's also being used in cancer. When a doctor sees a cancer patient, they have to write up their charts and their data and make the case for this patient, and then they have to go and do the research on past cases worldwide to get an idea of what they should make as a treatment plan. However, IBM Watson, who's popular for being a contestant on Jeopardy and being used in the Weather Channel, is being used right now to help aid those doctors working with cancer patients. So a doctor still makes the cases, the doctor still takes the data of the patient, but then the doctor gives this case to IBM Watson. IBM Watson then scours the globe for the research, develops a treatment plan much better and quicker than the doctor could, and brings it back to the doctor. The doctor then can see the patient much quicker and present a much better treatment plan for the patient. So not only is IBM Watson helping the doctor, but IBM Watson is helping the patient be seen with a much better treatment plan as well. Another example that I've seen on the Megyn Kelly show was Robert Frisch. He used to play the violin when he was much younger, and he was very good at it. It was basically his career. However, he developed tremors throughout his body that would no longer allow him to play the violin. When he developed these tremors, he could no longer play, and he was very upset. So he went to the Mayo Clinic, where Dr. Kendall Lee performed surgery on Robert Frisch. What Dr. Kendall Lee did was he drilled a couple holes into his brain and then put a chip in Robert Frisch's chest. This machine on the right here, or your left, is able to turn the chip on and off in Robert Frisch's chest. What he did was he turned it on the show, and when he turned it on, he could play the violin very smoothly and pretty much tremor-free. And he described it as being able to play much better than what he could before he developed the tremors. However, when he turned it off, he couldn't even get the bow up to the strings, and if he did, it made a very terrible noise, actually. So instead of losing his job to technology, instead of robots performing the surgery, instead of robots helping Robert Frisch here, Dr. Kendall Lee utilized robots and technology to help himself in his career and help his patient, actually Robert Frisch, have a much better outcome. So along with the medicine and the surgeries and pharmacology, it's being used in my specific field of physical therapy as well. This was designed by Burgar and Associates. It's a machine that assists stroke patients who have paretic limbs. A paretic limb is a limb that is paralyzed, but it's only partially paralyzed, so they can still make movements themselves. What it does is it allows the patient to put their arms in the machine, and they have to make the movements themselves, but the machine assists them along the way. So they use this to do like drawing and tracing and different kind of games like that to help build their strength. So what Burgar and Associates did was they compared this machine to patients who were actually working with a physical therapist. And what they found was that the patients who used the robotic-assisted machine actually saw greater increases in strength when compared to the physical therapist. Now, what you may be thinking right now is that, okay, so there's no longer a need for physical therapists. The machine can do the work for itself, and basically the physical therapist is out of a job. However, this is not the case. The physical therapists are actually very excited to see this because it allows them to hook the patient up, much like we did in the introduction with the bed and the patient who stretched out. And it allows them to work on themselves and work by themselves, but the physical therapist still has to be right there. The physical therapist still has to do documentation, the observations. They still have to keep an eye on the patient and observe what is going on. While they're doing this, they can write up other aspects of their job, they can do paperwork, and they just can basically watch a lot easier and a lot better as the patient is doing the work. So it does take part of the hands-on activity with the patient away, but what the physical therapist wants to see is this. They want to see that their patient is seeing greater strength increases. So instead of it taking the job of the physical therapist, it takes a part of the physical therapist's job, does a little bit better than the physical therapist could, while allowing the physical therapist to work on other parts of that job and other parts of that patient. So what we have in this world right now is a fear of losing our jobs to robots because of transhumanism. We're afraid that introducing technology into the workforce will actually take jobs away from us, and we're afraid that eventually it'll be all robots and no longer people making money. However, I do not believe that this has to be a case. I believe that we can introduce and incorporate technology into the workforce to make the workforce better for ourselves and for the future. And I believe that this is being shown very well in the natural sciences, specifically medicine. I believe that medicine is showing that we can incorporate artificial intelligence, technology, and robotics into the workplace to make the workplace better and help those who we need to help. I, for one, am very excited to see how the future with technology in the workplace is. I think that it can be good, and I think we can build a very good relationship with robots. I, for one, am excited to work in the field of physical therapy, and I cannot wait to see how I can utilize technology to better the lives of my patients. Thank you.